Good evening. My name is James Castle. This presentation is on quantum resilient encryption technology versus ransomware, written by James Castle and Flavia Kenyon for the American Digital Week. I am the CEO and Chief Security Officer of Terra Nova Defense Solutions and Terra Nova TCU Communications. We are a manufacturer of commercial cybersecurity products in quantum resilient encryption, microprocessor architecture, and in secure communication solutions. Our company is a multi-sector specialized and offers direct services in cybersecurity, aerospace, maritime, defense, unmanned vehicles, and in communications. I am the chairperson of the Cybersecurity Global Alliance, which operates under Terra Nova Defense NFP and explores the possibility of creating cybersecurity legislation for global systems with a team in 9 countries worldwide. I'm additionally the Canadian ambassador for the EU Commission think tank called Drone Think Do, based in Brussels, representing over 30,000 high-profile tech companies in over 64 countries globally. I started the Terra Nova group of companies back in 2014, starting in public safety and emergency management. In 2018 and later, I was invited to speak as a special witness before the Standing Committee on Transport Infrastructure and Communities, the TRAIN Committee, at the House of Commons Parliament in Ottawa as an expert in witness in unmanned vehicles and the future of drones in Canada. Terra Nova Defense Solutions is one of the companies owned by myself, which was elected as one of Canada's top defense companies in both 2020 and 21 by the Canadian Defense Review magazine. And over the years, it has expanded into a conglomerate of corporations, from defense systems to advanced cybersecurity manufacturing to innovation hub technologies, including cybersecurity, managed services, cyber ranges, and incident management, operating in aerospace systems and in smart city developments for climate change initiatives. I have worked as a volunteer in business mentorship, as well as working for my community, working and running recreational programs and helping people during COVID get physical fitness. I have been involved in this for over 3 years. And I'm currently involved working as a volunteer with the Canadian Standards Association group on a task force that regulates RPAS for emergency managers and emergency rescue personnel. My co-author, Flavia Kenyon, is a leading British barrister. She holds an impressive and varied portfolio of national and international financial crime cases. Flavia advises startups, SMEs, and individuals on cyber fraud legislation, litigation, and regulatory issues emerging from new technologies such as blockchain, decentralized finance, and cryptocurrencies. She advises companies on how to respond to ransomware attacks and advised the BBC on the future of cyber attacks on media organizations. Flavia is frequently instructed to defend in complex, multi-handed fraud trials with an international dimension. She has defended insolvency prosecutions, money laundering, cyber fraud, fraudulent dealings, international conspiracies to defraud financial institutions, and conspiracies to making articles to use in fraud, Ponzi schemes, and fraud by misrepresentation. She has developed a strong profile in government advisory and ambassadorial work, recently advising the Romanian embassy in London on issues of state immunity and commercial property. Her advisory work also extends to non-governmental organizations such as Transparency International, for whom she has acted in an international case of bribery of public officials in the oil and gas industry in Senegal. Flavia is the author of numerous legal articles and is the legal commentator. She was educated at Oxford University and called to the bar in 2005. She is fluent in English, French, Romanian. Flavia is listed as a leading individual in both national directories of excellence, Chamber, and Partners UK, and the Legal 500. In the digital era of increasing cyber attacks, the Cybersecurity Global Alliance has investigated real solutions. A supercluster company in Canada has created possibly the first true answer to countermeasure ransomware. This countermeasure, which has been proven by leading Canadian Polytech University in Saskatchewan, was designed and manufactured to be the world's first superior commercial-grade quantum-resilient encryption software. Originally designed for the military and commercial drone communications, this technology was reconfigured into a Windows-based enterprise technology that is now compatible with Linux, Android, and Apple technologies. This technology was manufactured, designed, and built by our Canadian business partners, CEW Systems Canada, and with Terra Nova TCU Communications, who are working together in advanced manufacturing of cybersecurity products. As the world plummets into cyber and ransomware attacks, the world needs a superhero, and that superhero is CEW Systems Canada and its encryption tool, Bisymmetric Handshake. Terra Nova TCU Communications has already expanded into the unmanned and autonomous vehicle sector, automobile industry, aerospace and defense, and into future technologies such as hypersonic technologies and missile defense systems. Terra Nova TCU Communications is the future defender against electronic warfare and the next generation of quantum-resilient cyber defense systems, alongside with Terra Nova Defense Solutions. CEW's encryption solutions is defined as a quantum-resilient encryption algorithm designed to encrypt and decrypt data that is being transmitted via the bisymmetric handshake. The solution is ideal for all unmanned as well as manned vehicle communication to prevent cyber attacks from all computers, including supercomputers and upcoming quantum computers. These computers will soon be able to execute brute force attacks against intercepted encrypted data. On December 3, 2020, in the Journal of Science, scientists from China built a photonic quantum computer that they claimed to be 10 to the 14th power times more powerful than the third most powerful supercomputer in the world. The integrated cybersecurity solution proposed within will include internal and external communication encryption using CEW System Canada's bisymmetric encryption software. It uses challenge and counter-challenge codes to exchange public keys using private keys. This ensures listening parties, potentially attackers, will be able to read the contents of the encrypted data and or to send unwanted commands designed to interrupt onboard activities or systems. In encryption, there is a little known issue that both cryptographers and hackers know about, but it's almost never talked about. Asymmetric keys use public and private key pairs, which are heavily relied upon because one can easily send public keys, which is intercepted or hacked and can be used to encrypt data. Only the holder of the private keys can decrypt the data. So let's think about this statement for a minute and the consequence in the context of a ransomware attack. Anyone with a public key can encrypt data with it. Essentially, what this means is that anyone who intercepts a public key can pretend to be another person and spoof the receiving device or person. This is one of the main reasons why hackers use to get into the back doors of servers. Let's consider for a moment and create an example to best illustrate this. In typical encryption descriptions, Farah and John exchange secret information while Max tries to intercept the encrypted data. So, Farah sends John a public key, which John uses to encrypt his data. But since Farah is holding the private key, only she can decrypt the message. Public keys will prevent Max from finding out what messages John is sending to Farah, but it does nothing to stop Max from pretending to be John and sending Farah a misleading message. With public key encryption, there is no true secure means by which to help Farah ensure that John and only John can encrypt and send her information. Let us take another pertinent example, the Internet of Things, technologies such as drones or garage door openers or automobiles. Each of these devices sends and receives data that through easily intercepted radio transmitting technology. A drone has been programmed to decrypt 4 commands: up, down, left, right. The drone would be programmed in more complex command codes, but let us say the programmers assumed the encryption would protect them. The drone receives a request from the drone pilot, we'll use the name as Alice, to send over an asymmetric key upon startup, and transmits a post-quantum level public key. Any person's, say Mallory, within transmitting range can intercept the public key. Mallory will not be able to decrypt the command codes Alice is transmitting to the drone. However, because Mallory has intercepted the public key, and since anyone can encrypt data using that public key, she can easily encrypt and send her own commands to the drone, causing the drone to, for example, crash into a near hospital, or even hit a plane that is flying through the air. Another example applies to garage doors. Let's say if Eric intercepts a garage door public key for a large underground parking lot, he can then sneak in behind Sarah's car, and Sarah will have no idea the public key that was used by Eric to stalk her via unimproved access. This is the same in case of cars. If Alice connects her smartphone to the car and Mallory intercepts the public keys, Mallory could take over unwanted functions of the car. There is a real-world vulnerability which currently exists and results in extremely regular data breaches caused by the repeated use of simple and easy-to-remember usernames and passwords. If Corporation A is hacked and all the unencrypted usernames and passwords are stolen, then there is nothing to stop hackers from reusing the stolen username and passwords and logging into large corporate online accounts. This is how Disney Plus service was hacked during their initial startup. In the example of unmanned drones, determining the identity of message command sender is paramount. Bisymmetric encryption uses a unique and novel handshake incorporating encrypted session key combinations, allowing users login credentials, biometric data, credit card data, or command activation codes to be quickly and correctly processed without directly transmitting this confidential data. The plug-and-play hybridized encryption system employs concepts like asymmetric encryption meshed with more secure symmetric encryption. A significant difference from commonly employed asymmetric encryption is that during the initial handshake, to set up communication, no vulnerable data is exchanged. Should the sender key communication be intercepted by a hacker, they still cannot pretend to be the originator of the communication to the receiver. The bisymmetric handshake provides a new and novel encryption feature not found in any other encryption system. The handshake was set up specifically to exchange encrypted, randomly generated data instead of login credentials such as password and command codes, while still achieving the ability to ascertain the authentication of both parties. If the login data, command codes, or credit card data are not transmitted, how can it be intercepted or decrypted? During the initial handshake, private keys are generated from or found in the form of login credentials. Credit card information, biometric data, and other personal credential information are pre-shared private keys, which are then used to start the handshake, are never actually transmitted. At Terra Nova TCU Communications, we understand the claims we are making about our encryption API software, sounding extremely ambitious. Our software was developed over years, starting in 2016 to 2017, when we watched a news documentary on how easy it was to break into a key fob-enabled vehicle. A thief could simply walk up with a tablet and portable transmitter, execute a brute force attack, and be in the car in less than 30 seconds. The bisymmetric handshake was specifically designed for encryption of open-air radio communications where command codes are easily intercepted and recorded. The bisymmetric handshake was born out of this realization in which a unique and novel type of handshake can provide an excellent solution, one which always happens to be quantum resilient. To authenticate the claims of our encryption software, we engaged the services of the Saskatchewan Polytech Digital Integration Center of Excellence, also known as the DICE Group, to perform a short NRC-funded analysis of our bisymmetric hybrid encryption API system. Dr. Cecil M. Kupel is a PhD, ISP, ITCP, and is the Senior Research Associate from the DICE Group, was kind enough to provide the evaluation for us. Dr. Kupel's white paper was written from a point of view of e-commerce, with several mentions of Bluetooth, automotive key fobs, and related radio transmitting technologies. This of course, extends to unmanned vehicles. Within his paper, he directly quoted from third-party academic peer review of our quantum resilience software. Ransomware has become a flourishing global criminal industry. In just a few years, the scale and severity of attacks have grown at an alarming pace as cybercriminals look to exploit cybersecurity vulnerabilities to maximize profits worldwide. It is a crime without frontiers, as a single attack can rapidly spread across borders with devastating effects. An example in point would be the 2017 WannaCry ransomware attack that affected people in 150 countries. Ransomware is a form of cybercrime, a highly sophisticated, highly lucrative, and evolving white-collar crime that not only risks the personal and financial security of individuals, but also threatens national security and human life. Businesses, schools, governments, hospitals, critical infrastructure, and entire cities are now regularly targeted, their networks disrupted, and even held hostage. This is a type of malware, software designed to cause harm to a computer or a computer network for financial profit. The malware is designed to encrypt files on a device, rendering them unusable. Malicious actors then demand ransom in exchange for the decryption. Generally, an attack has two main goals. The primary goal is financial profit. The demand of the ransom payment is cryptocurrency, usually in BTC. to decrypt the victim's files, and secondary and subsidiary goal is the theft and exfiltration of data and the threat of exposing the victim's data on the internet, including copyright-protected trade and industry secrets, highly sensitive personal and non-personal data, if additional ransom is not paid. This is called double extortion. Attackers use a victim's data on the internet in addition to ransom attacks. Attackers use a victim's data as a bargaining chip, a further vehicle of extortion on the victim for the speedy payments of the ransom, or as an asset to hold on for later for sale, selectively, to other criminal groups, or for later deployment in pursuit of further crime. Because the victim is dealing with criminal gangs, there are no guarantees that even after having paid ransom, the data will be returned safely. By the end of 2019, such was the level and sophistication of ransomware that cybersecurity analysts began referring to it with terms normally used for legitimate business models. A service market, a big business market, a big game hunting market for criminal groups to run as professional organizations. The ransomware as a service, also known as RAS model, in particular allows criminals without technical sophistication to conduct ransomware attacks anywhere in the world. And, at the same time, technically knowledgeable criminals are conducting increasingly sophisticated attacks fueled by ransomware payments. For anyone in the private or public sector who has been a victim of a ransomware attack, the question of whether to pay or not to pay the ransom becomes an existential one. Faced with such predicament, it is important that a clear and internationally recognized legal framework is put into place that will create legal certainty of how such a pressing issue. Presently, there is no such legal framework in place. No international or indeed national law enforced agencies have reached a consensus on whether such a payment should be made legal, a decision which has undoubtedly involved difficult policy considerations. Presently, victims agonizing about whether they should proceed to engage with attackers do so in a legal vacuum and may expose themselves to unwanted liability if they have not sanctioned to be compliant. Making a ransomware payment per se is not unlawful. However, the current legal position is far from being clear or reliably consistent due to the varying global laws. Arguably, it is extremely onerous for a victim to identify the payment recipients under the short timelines of a ransomware attack, bearing in mind the decentralized nature of the attack and of the method of payment in cryptocurrency. The demand for the ransom payment in cryptocurrencies adds another layer of difficulty for a victim to be able to trace and identify the recipient and thus be sanctions compliant. Attackers have become well versed in the use of blockchain with its transparent ledger of transactions by law enforcement and digital forensic agencies in tracing the payments. In order to obfuscate law enforcement and the forensic tracing process, cyber criminals are now using decentralized exchanges, which by their very nature do not have a middleman or intermediary, and are extremely difficult to regulate, as opposed to centralized exchanges, financial entities subject to anti-money laundering and KYC regulations. Attackers demand the payments to be made to unhosted, self-hosted wallets. Wallets that are not hosted with an exchange. An unhosted wallet is effectively software installed on a computer or device. The funds are controlled by the individual without the need for an intermediary. Users of unhosted wallets interact directly with a digital currency system without the involvement of a financial institution, service provider, or other intermediaries such as a centralized exchange. Importantly, users of unhosted wallets can receive, send, and exchange their crypto assets with other unhosted wallets without revealing their identity. This makes it almost impossible for law enforcement, let alone a victim of an attack, to trace the identity of the ransom recipient. According to the Chainalysis of 2021 Crypto Crime Report, the total amount paid by ransomware victims increased by 311% in 2020, reaching nearly $350 million worth of cryptocurrency. Although there is a strong presumption against making the ransom payment built into both the OFAC guidance and the UK-EU regulations, there is no legal clarity as to the status of making a payment to an organized cybercriminal group. The concept itself profoundly offends the old common law principle of aiding and abetting, assisting in the commission of crime, which in itself is an offense. There cannot be any doubt that the ransom payment constitutes criminal property. Most jurisdictions now recognize that cryptocurrency is property in law, representing the hacker's benefit from criminal conduct, namely from extortion, blackmail, and the ransomware attack, both criminal offenses in most advanced jurisdictions. Further legal considerations may also come into play. Firms that pay ransoms and their facilitators should also consider whether they have regulatory anti-money laundering reporting obligations under Part 7 of PACA 2002 and the Money Laundering and Terrorist Financing Amendment Regulations of 2019 to submit a suspicious activity report, also known as SAR, to the National Crime Agency in respect of information that comes to them in the course of their business, if they know or suspect or have any reasonable grounds for knowing or suspecting that a person is engaged in or attempting a money laundering or terrorist financing offense. This may commit an offense if they have knowledge or suspicion of money laundering activity or criminal property, do something to assist another in dealing with it, and fail to make a SAR. Submitting a SAR protects an individual and an organization by providing a potential defense against money laundering financing offenses known as consent, appropriate consent, and prior consent defenses. In conclusion, navigating the complex and unclear international sanction regimes while dealing with a ransomware attack and the demand for payment is a fraught process, which leaves victims of attacks vulnerable. The technical solution presented in this speech discusses the bisymmetric handshake, providing a new and novel quantum resilient encryption feature, which may just offer the much-needed harbor of safety against the onslaught of ransomware attacks. For final statement, it is good to know that quantum resilient encryption software does not stop a cyber attack from happening, but it will stop the threat actors from taking that data and being able to read that data, which could potentially put an end to ransomware altogether around the planet. My name is James Castle. Thank you for watching, and have a great evening.
Hello! Has any of you ever wondered what our lives will be like in 2050 or say in 2100? I'm asking because in 2020, during just 7 months, we've used all the resources the Earth renews in a year with a population of 7 billion people, which means that currently we consume 1.7 times its resources. But when the global population grows to 9.7 billion in 2050 and 11 billion in 2100, with current production and consumption patterns, we will need like 3 or more times the Earth's resources. Is it even possible? My name is Nikita Ivanenko, and today we are going to talk about the path to sustainable consumption and production patterns so that planet and people are in complete harmony. What is actually sustainable consumption and production patterns? It's all about doing more and better with less. As you might have already noticed, we are currently consuming more resources than ever, and this consumption trend is growing at an exponential pace. Therefore, the successful transition to sustainable consumption and production patterns will mean tremendous improvements in resource efficiency, consideration of the entire life cycle of economic activities, and active engagement in environmental agreements by as many parties globally as possible. And how do you think? Who this transition must be started with first? Is it the government, society, separate individuals? From my point of view, the very first party we should start this transition from is manufacturing business. And guess why? The key reason is that in the supply chains they are much earlier than consumers. Also, due to the inefficiencies in their processes, they usually need more raw materials than they would use if they worked efficiently and to their fullest potential. Furthermore, if they are not able to meet the actual consumer demand properly, they produce a vast amount of goods which end up in waste. For instance, the stats demonstrate that the overproduction in the food industry led to 51% of waste, in the textile industry to 30% of waste, and in other industries from 10 to 20% of waste. Apart from that, the inefficiencies in processes at manufacturing companies lead to excessive use of water and energy. And if we all keep using the water in the same way as we do now, especially for industrial purposes, by 2040 there won't be enough water available to meet global demand for both drinking and products manufacturing. So, how do you think? Why do these inefficiencies in their business processes, as well as their inability to meet actual customer demand at manufacturing companies, still occur? And is there the solution that will dramatically change the way how things are being produced so that the consumer always gets what he needs in the right quantities at the right time and manufacturers work 100% efficiently in a wasteless environment? Huh, does it sound like a future we'll all strive to achieve? I think the answer is obvious, because having that implemented, we will be way closer to sustainable consumption and production patterns, right? And back to the previous question, the answer is even more obvious. There is no solution available yet, otherwise, the issues we've just discussed would have already been resolved and we would enjoy a much more sustainable lifestyle than they are today. Let's assume there is already the desired solution. What is it like and how is it different from existing solutions? Why do they fail to deliver the expected results towards more sustainable production? And why this solution will bring us to a more sustainable future that we all deserve? First, the vast majority of manufacturing companies have pushed their systems for their supply chains. That's when products are being pushed through their distribution channels from production up to the wholesalers and retailers based on the demand forecasts, which are almost always wrong or inaccurate, even though there is a solid historical data about sales and real customer demand during past periods of time. Of course, there are products that must be pushed to the customers, like brand new tech products, brand new car models, new products for housekeeping, etc. But the most efficient way to do it is via media channels, rather than producing them in advance, hoping for a huge customer demand in the future that might never become real. On the contrary, there is a solution called pull system. In pull-based supply chains, procurement, production, and distribution are demand-driven rather than based on predictions. Thus, the goods are produced in the amount needed by customers and exactly when they are needed. By doing so, companies can focus on eliminating waste activities in the production processes. As a result, they'll be able to optimize their resources and reduce the possibility of overstocking. The pull system is part of lean manufacturing. As a systemic way to increase efficiency and better please customers, lean manufacturing principles run counter to traditional mass production practices. Yet, they allow manufacturing businesses to consistently increase quality while decreasing costs. They emphasize key objectives like simplicity, flow, and balance. Companies large and small can leap over the competition by understanding and implementing this high efficiently demand-driven system. Let me explain each aspect of lean. First, as you already know, is pull system. Second is waste. Third is continuous improvement. So what is pull system? Pull system is a type of the system where components are used in the manufacturing processes and they are replaced once they have been consumed, so companies only make enough product to meet customer demand. This means all of the company's resources are used for producing goods that will immediately be sold and return a profit. Essentially, a pull system works backwards, starting with the customer's order, then using visual signals to prompt action in each previous step in the process, as you can see on this figure. Second major lean manufacturing component is waste. Essentially, waste is any unnecessary step in manufacturing process that doesn't benefit the customer. Therefore, the customer doesn't want to pay for it. When you remove waste, you're left with only the steps that are required to deliver satisfactory, now high-valued product to the customer. There are 8 types of waste, which are defects, overproduction, waiting, non-utilized talent, transportation, inventory, motion, excess processing. First is defects. Defects is all about the quality of the product that doesn't satisfy the actual customer's needs and expectations. It can be either the product of poor quality or the process that could negatively impact the quality of the product. Some specific causes include poor quality control at the production level, poor machine repair, lack of proper documentation, or lack of process standards, etc. Next type of waste is overproduction. Overproduction is all about producing more than actually is needed by customers. It usually leads to overstocking or excessive inventory volumes, which causes extra costs to business. Common causes of overproduction include unreliable processes, unstable production schedules, inaccurate forecast and demand information, etc. Next one is waiting. Waiting is all about people, material, equipment waiting to start their job due to some reasons like raw materials are not in place yet and so the job can't be started. Common causes of waiting include unplanned downtime or delay equipment, long or delayed setup times, etc. Next type of waste is transportation. Transportation is the necessary movement of parts, double handling of materials, or shuffling of inventory to get access to the right components. There is also the frequently overlooked fact that people often have to make round trips, adding to the delay. It's surprising how far people walk in the course of a year in many processes. For instance, walking 100 feet to get parts 20 times a day can add up to nearly 170 miles a year. Just imagine how big that number is. 170 miles a year. Actually, common types of transportation waste include, as already mentioned, poor layout, where there are large distances between operations. It's also about long material handling system, large batch sizes, etc. Next type of waste is related to inventory. Inventory waste is inventory that is left untouched, waiting to be used. It wastes space as well as the capital used to purchase inventory without immediate financial returns. Common causes of inventory waste include overproduction of goods, delays in production, or waste of waiting, etc. Motion is the next type of waste. Motion is about the excessive motion of employees and equipment on a factory floor. Seemingly trivial excess can add up over time to generate significant inefficiencies that will lead to extra costs. Programmable machines can have motion ways designed into their behavior or layout. Perhaps a robotic arm swings in a longer arc than necessary, or an automated conveyor system could be designed to make shorter runs between processing equipment. Human motion waste can be created when a worker has to sort through a stack of molds to find the right one, or has to bend over repeatedly to adjust a control that's out of reach. Actually, common ways of motion include some examples like poor workstation layout, poor production planning, poor processing, etc. Last type of waste is called excess processing. Excess processing is related to management or administrative issues such as lack of communication, duplication of data, overlapping areas of authority, and human error. It may also be the result of equipment design, inadequate job station tooling, or facility layout. Examples of excess processing include like poor communication, poor documentation, non-understanding of the customer's needs, human errors, etc. And the third major part of lean manufacturing methodology is continuous improvement. Explained shortly, it's a never-ending strive for perfection in everything we do. In the context of the lean methodology, continuous improvement seeks to improve every process in the company by focusing on enhancing the activities that generate the most value for the customer, while removing as many waste activities as possible. So, as soon as all the waste as the organization are eliminated, continuous improvement is used in order to sustain the efficiency levels of all the value-added business processes in the company, as well as to immediately respond to the rapidly changing environment outside the company. For example, there are some new workplace regulations arrived, and using continuous improvement strategy, the company is able to immediately adapt to these changes without any impact on the quality of products and the efficiency of the existing business processes. All right, now we all know the major components of lean manufacturing. So let's explore what Industry 4.0 is. Industry 4.0 is a digital transformation of manufacturing and related industries, as well as value creation processes. In recent years, Industry 4.0 digital and physical technologies have made possible new accomplishments of speed, cohesion, flexibility, and automation that have forever altered what production looks like. Advances in robotics, materials, and artificial intelligence are all poised to be the future vanguards of manufacturing and beyond. As a result, digital technologies and lean principles are intersecting in what is commonly termed digital lean, which can be a powerful combination of timeless lean principles and constantly evolving digital technologies to decrease waste and variability in processes. So, let's explore how Industry 4.0 can enable companies to become digitally lean. Digital lean is not a new set of lean principles, but it enhances lean principles to make their application even more powerful. While systems of record such as enterprise resource planning often report on operations and they impact the company and plant financials, many digital lean systems of innovation produce detailed information on all aspects of the process. Digital lean also uses Industry 4.0 and other digital tools to provide more accurate, precise, and timely information about operations. Moreover, the increased availability of high-frequency data from Industry 4.0 technologies coupled with growing processing power has led to new analytics and insights that were virtually impossible several years ago. Do you remember we've discussed what waste is? Digital lean accelerates waste identification and its mitigation faster than traditional lean methods by giving targeted, detailed information directly to those who can reduce this waste. However, digital lean also provides an opportunity to target hidden components of waste as information asymmetry, latency that often go unnoticed and that cumulatively add up to higher support costs and reduced efficiency and output, resulting in tangible bottom line impact. Digital lean generally requires 3 key enablers at a plant, and every plant will have different immediate needs across these 3 areas. First one is the collaboration between information technology and operation technology. Actually, prior to Industry 4.0, Both were mostly two distinct areas with little to no overlap. To unlock its full potential, digital lean requires integration of them both, which brings plant and operations data to plant and business users. Second key enabler of digital lean is standardizing of processes. Actually, plant processes generate data that serves as input for digital lean. But if processes are not carried out with standardization and discipline, accurate and continuous data could not be forthcoming. As a result of impact of a digital lean initiative would be muted. Key in this regard is the role of plant leadership in defining and enforcing processes to ultimately provide more accurate data. Third key enabler of digital lean is bringing the process to life. It's all about data-enabled technology platforms. As important as IT and OT collaboration, discipline process and data management are, relevant technological platforms should be leveraged to truly harness the benefits of digital lean. Okay, so what are the benefits of digital lean? When digital lean is implemented successfully, organizations can expect to reduce costs and improve quality, in turn leading to better productivity and a stronger return on investment when compared with individual digital or traditional lean improvement projects implemented in isolation. With digital lean, the manufacturer can build on its lean foundation and leverage new technologies such as machine learning and predictive maintenance to solve previously unsolvable business problems and unlock previously unreachable productivity frontiers. Digital lean already utilizes and unites digital with management practices to solve business problems. An organization that uses digital lean with intensity on applicable high-value business problems can potentially expect to see the greatest returns. Moreover, digital lean transformations and improvement projects target long-established performance measures such as improving OEE, reducing cost, and improving safety and sustainability. When approaching the plateau of the traditional lean optimization curve, manufacturers have seen considerable incremental value across all traditional measures by focusing on digital lean improvements, as you can see in this figure. To achieve the greatest return on investor, manufacturers should focus digital lean initiatives and programs in the largest areas of opportunity. This generally include unlocking the capacity of constrained assets, improving strategic assets efficiency, decreasing comparatively high total cost of poor quality, decreasing labor spend, and decreasing or eliminating unnecessary raw material costs. As you can see, digital lean is typically effective and robust. It can reduce the effort to understand operations and generate more accurate, precise, and timely information. It's more than a set of Industry 4.0 tools, encompassing reevaluating current processes using a digital mindset, changing behaviors, and shifting decision making away from experience based to data based far more efficiently than lean processes alone could ever do. Moreover, targeted strategic digital lean efforts do not necessarily require significant upfront investment to realize the benefits in weeks. But how one should start the digital lean transformation journey? There are a lot of lean consultants available on the horizon, however, they are usually costly and not all organizations can afford them. But besides them, lean consultants themselves are not equipped with the software tools needed to control the digital lean transformation journey. So in addition to the lean consultants, companies must purchase some software tools that might also be costly because currently the biggest tools for manufacturing require some extra manpower in the roles of consultants and engineers that will guide the companies on how to use them, as well as customize the tools based on their needs, drive migrations or integrations, etc. For instance, did you know that 98.6% of US manufacturing companies are small businesses, and 75.3% of them have even fewer than 20 employees? Therefore, if we all strive to achieve sustainable consumption production patterns in the nearest future, the solution that will help manufacturing companies with their lean transformation journeys must be created. It must play a role of a regular lean consultant, but obviously cost way less, and it must consist of the tools and techniques digital lean can offer so that even small and medium-sized manufacturers can start their digital lean transformation journeys. From my point of view, what the solution is used by thousands of manufacturing companies globally, the world's transition to more sustainable consumption and production patterns will be significantly accelerated. If you agree with me and want to discuss this topic or the solution itself, feel free to reach out to me via either direct email or LinkedIn. Here you can see my email. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Feel free to reach out to me.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to thank Digital 4 Foundation for providing this opportunity for me to talk about this fantastic topic and be part of this digital event. Welcome to my presentation with topic of future of the smart cities. Today's presentation will cover near future of the smart cities and will be supported by data that will help us to understand near future of the smart cities in next 3 years. My name is Nejat Piric, and I am with the European Technology Chamber as Director of Smart Cities and Director for Digital Transformation. So to understand and before we deep dive into understanding the future of the smart cities, we need to take a look into our present. And we are doing that by looking into United Nations Department of Economics and Social Affairs World Urbanization. And based on their research, they found that by 2050, the number of population will rise to 68%, which is expected to add another 2.5 billion new residents by 2050. Cities also occupy 3% of the earth, but they account for up to 80% of energy consumption, as well as 75% of global waste and carbon emission. So, why is important that we on a world level that we continue with smart cities program activities and initiatives? As per McKinsey Global Institute research, smart cities deliver results, more efficient, responsive and sustainable cities, which delivers better outcomes for people in these cities. So they realized that they actually found that their research shows that from 30 to 300 lives are saved each year in the cities of 5 million. 30 to 40% fewer crime rate, 8 to 15% lower disease burden, 15 to 30 minutes is cut off the daily commuting. And amazing result, 25 to 80 liters of water saved per person per day. So if we multiply this with 5 million and 365 days, it's amazing amount of water that is saved. And of course, from 20 to 35% faster emergency response time. So today's presentation will be mainly supported by SE Thought Lab, which research results. And this research conducted is also sponsored by Oracle, Deloitte, Intel, and many other companies between August and September 2020. And included senior officials from 167 cities across 82 countries. So 21% of these respondents were mayors or chief executive, additional 50% were city managers, approximately 30% held policy or operational roles, including chief of staff or director of planning or policy, and about 20% has senior position overseeing technology of smart city initiative. So it's a very, very huge sample with really cities that cover 526.8 million of residents. So what they found that unfortunately close to 30% cities are actually beginners, and they are just starting to use technology and data to achieve their goals. Majority of the cities, almost 50%, are actually intermediate, and they are making progress by using technology and data across their urban initiatives. And 22%, they are advanced in use technology and data across urban domains. So this is the list of the cities, left-hand side, leaders in the middle, intermediate, and beginners at the right-hand side. So also talking about investment priorities, when they ask these mayors and executives from smart cities what's their investment priorities, we can see that the results are very close. So investments are majorly going into public and safety, mobility and transportation, living and health, economy, trade and industry, digital infrastructure. So, and then energy, water, environment, government, and education. Also, on this slide, we can see another research from Global Data, how the smart cities projects, the deployments lost speed since COVID-19 happened. So basically, if you look data on 2020, they are on a level on 2014, unfortunately. So what is the progress in using technology across these urban domains? So of course it will be digital infrastructure, because without digital infrastructure, the other part will basically not work. So again, the numbers at this slide are very, very close. 78%, 75% for public safety, 75% mobility, water, energy, economy, trade, and then always lacking on government and education part. So what are 5 top challenges per these city representatives? They are saying that 52% they have complex policies and regulations. 50% is also thinking that it's difficult to find a partner or suppliers, which is reasonable as technology progress every day. Of course, data and security and privacy is one of the issues, and as mentioned above, fast pace of technology change. New technologies are emerging almost every day, and of course, in beginner phase. 30% basically cities are focusing on basic services to provide for their citizens. What they are top external disruptions? So 81% is saying is pandemic, and which is perfectly true statement, and of course following by because of pandemic, its decline in economic growth, 46%. And of course, 28% rising this digital expectation of citizen, climate change, lack of resources, shifting demographics, and diversity, and even 18% of the city representatives are saying there is a possibility of social unrest. So, what smart city learned during pandemic? That basically the number one thing that they learn that these programs are crucial for the future. They realize that the city representatives realized that one day we woke up, we couldn't go to work, we couldn't interact with the clients, with the citizens, with the students, and basically the only thing that help us to stay alive, so to speak, is technology. Also, pay more attention to citizen health, operation continuity, and agility, and so on. So there's a lots of lessons learned during pandemic. Of course, on a business and government side, on remote work, crisis management, and of course, reliable and affordable internet. And cities are well aware of cybersecurity and cyber attack. As we can see in this slide, leaders are very confident. 95% of them is thinking that they are in a very good shape and they are very well prepared, while we have beginners with only 8% and average is 40%, which is not really satisfactory result in smart cities cybersecurity. What they thinking about partnership priorities over next 3 years? It's interesting that many of them see academics, academy, research or institution, multilateral organization, of course, government, businesses, financial institutions, startups, regional agency, and so on. So partnerships are important for success of smart city. So this is the path where smart city need to go to become smart city 4.0, which is actually hyper connected cities that is using technology and data and citizen engagement to achieve SDG. How to get there? How to get to the smart cities 4.0? So there's a 4 steps. We need to leverage latest technology, and we need to make data as a strategic asset. Of course, we need to take advantage of our ecosystem, and very, very, very important is to engage the citizen as so we can get their expectation, needs, and of course their feedback. So Cities 4.0, the technology they use, they focus on cybersecurity, 95%. They create innovation hub to promote adoption. They build digital equity and lead the digital effort. 75% of Cities 4.0 have a senior executive with a written framework. Interoperability is one of priorities, where 60% of cities prioritize interoperability, and of course allocate digital funding for smart technology, for physical infrastructure. So, what's the average return on investment? If we're going to talk with any city representative, this question will pop up. What is the average return on investment? So as we can see, the numbers for sprinters is somewhat close to 6%, and on average it's between 5.27 and 5.73. So, and that is across the board. It's around we can freely say that it's between 5 and 6%, which is not very fast return on investment, but we need to think about the social impact that is intangible, and what we are providing for citizens of these cities. And what are the conclusions? There's a need for collaboration, of course, as it's a clear then city and leaders are prioritizing the partnership. For city officials, the pandemic proved that smart cities program are imperative, and cities are heavily relying on a tech, especially on cloud and artificial intelligence. And many cities, especially beginners, are having trouble or they are afraid of cybersecurity. But the pioneers and the first runners, they actually have high level of confidence. So, looking at the time, I believe this is all. This is the time to close out today's presentation. I want to express my appreciation by saying thank you, Digital 4 Foundation. I'm looking forward to see you in the next Digital 4 Foundation event. Thank you and have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I would like to introduce to you the Smart Energy Digital Innovation Hub and the Smart City Data Management Platform. My name is Romualdas Petraitis. I am the CEO at Smart Energy Digital Innovation Hub, an international innovation expert at Lithuanian Confederation of Industrialists, country's leading business confederation. I am also pleased to introduce myself as I4MS ICT Innovation for Manufacturing SMEs initiative supported by European Commission and I4Trust, Data Spaces for Effective and Trusted Data Sharing ambassador as well. I'm preparing my slides, just a moment, and shortly about Smart Energy Digital Innovation Hub. Smart Energy Digital Innovation Hub is the renewable energy innovation ecosystem based in Vilnius, Lithuania. The DIH was established to build appropriate frameworks and amounts of high quality of renewable energy data for high performance computing, data analytics, and artificial intelligence. As Smart Energy Digital Innovation Hub was established to facilitate the full innovation chain from basic research to market uptake, it consists of participants from business, academia, and the public sector, major national renewable energy enterprises, research and educational institutions, international smart energy equipment manufacturers, NGOs, and technology providers. In Lithuania, we have quite an opposite experience working our way into a global community of advanced and prosperous economies. One example speaks the best. Some 15 years ago, we have been true outsiders in the field of global internet connectivity, with poor infrastructure and few investments made. But the time proved that this situation was very favorable for us too. Starting fresh from scratch, we succeeded just in a few years span to build the most modern, advanced broadband infrastructure, and today Lithuania is amongst the top 3 European countries by internet connectivity penetration and speed. A few facts about Lithuanian achievements. Lithuania is number 4 country for the ease of starting business in the European Union. The number of startups in Lithuania is rapidly increasing. Recently, the Lithuanian startup ecosystem went through many positive developments, and today we have more than 1,000 startups in Lithuania. According to the Manufacturing Risk Index Report 2018, Lithuania is ranked as the second most attractive location in the world for manufacturing investors. That is why we are number 11 in the world for ease of doing business. According to statistics, 47% of Lithuanian companies were involved in R&D activities. It was the second highest number in the EU. This will happen by bringing together major research, business and public stakeholders for the common development and implementation of digital transformation. Baltic states and Poland expressed interest in setting up a cross-border smart energy Baltic Digital Innovation Hub, competent in the areas of renewable energy, climate change, and the circular economy. As the challenges in the above areas are not restricted by any borders, effective solution can only be reached at regional level. The cross-border Smart Energy Baltic Digital Innovation Hub focuses on business realities, plans and visions in the following areas: renewable energy market, offshore wind and solar, energy efficiency, smart energy distribution networks, smart cities, sustainable transport and logistics, circular economy, and reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Cross-border cooperation is particularly important for small countries such as the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, which can also use this opportunity to enter the EU value chains. It was therefore decided to unite all parties in their efforts to address these pressing challenges of today. For Eastern countries like the Baltic states and Poland, cross-border cooperation in the field of renewable energy is of strategic importance as the region develops a common energy ecosystem will provide and increase more geopolitical security for the whole Europe, not to mention the region. The Smart City DAH, developing the initiative of the Green City 2030, which aims to achieve more ambitious goals in 2030 than currently foreseen by that time. The European Commission mission is to have a 100 carbon-neutral European cities by 2030. It is these cities that will become European innovation hubs with a view to becoming the first carbon-neutral continent by 2050. The program of the Government of Republic of Lithuania provides for the project Sustainable and Accessible Cities, for which the goal is the first carbon-neutral Lithuanian city by 2030. Developing of the Smart Energy Digital Innovation Hub as a think tank of the Green City 2030 initiative, with the involvement of these experts and working groups, will work as follows: smart cities, data management center, circular economy, solar and wind energy, energy storage technologies, hydrogen technology, green transport, heating and cooling technologies. Cities have a central and defining role in strategic sustainable development, and therefore they have increasingly gained a central position in operating and applying it. This is clearly reflected in the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which entails, among other things, making cities more sustainable and resilient. It's also well documented by European Commission. This is anchored in the recognition that cities as the engines of and the hubs of innovation that drive economic development are the world's major consumers of energy resources and significant contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. It is estimated that cities consume about 67% of the global energy demand and generate up to 70% of the harmful greenhouse gas emissions. Accordingly, they represent the key generations of environment pollutants and the main hotspots of vulnerability to climate hazards and related upheavals, in addition to social inequality, disparity, and insecurity. In view of that, they are seen as the most important arena for instigating major sustainability transitions, adding to being the key sites of economic, environmental, and social dynamism and innovation, and thereby holding great potential for making significant contribution to social transformation and thus sustainable development. As such, they provide ideal testing grounds and operating environments for innovative ICT solutions pertaining to diverse urban systems and domains. The United Nations 2030 Agenda regards ICT as a means to promote socio-economic development and protect the environment, increase resources efficiency, achieve human progress and knowledge in societies, and retrofit industries based on sustainable design principles. The Smart Energy DAH, developing idea of the Smart City Data Management Platform, which definitely is the heart of the Smart and Green City. Here you can see in the Municipality Data Management Platform ecosystem of sustainable urban development and governance. The City Data Management Platform implements a specific data model for the city about its data flows between its layers and different dimensions. It connects devices, people, businesses, and public administration services and entities in the one unique structure that operates as one system. The platform is built by a smooth integration of blockchain, artificial intelligence, advanced analytics, and 3D interface. It easily integrates with the party solution while keeping a high level of encryption and protection against cyber and physical threats. It connects and enables smooth communication between devices, software modules, people, businesses, and public authorities. The Smart City Data Management Platform is a new generation platform which automates the value extraction of data, enabling multi-usage of its functions. The aim of the platform is to develop a new constellation in which the municipality will be the key player of the system. It will enable sustainable urban development and governance whereby the municipality staff and community cooperate, communicate, interact, and co-involve via a hybrid platform. This platform will enable identification of the conceptual roots of the existing forecasted problems and needs, identification of potential solutions and their developers, assessment of their horizontal and vertical impact. We will monitor the continuous systemic impact and interaction of the implemented innovations and projects on a city scale. This will include sharing the success stories and failures and interaction of stakeholders in the city value activities. This will include improvement of living conditions, the creation of employment opportunities, the development of co-creation of new products, services, processes, and business models. As well-designed city data management platform provides the following social benefits to the city. Stakeholders came together easily. All the stakeholders share all the knowledge connected in communities. The city expands its physical dimension into the virtual one. The city becomes more exclusive as a digital gender. New employment and local economy growth are enabled. The city can expand its cultural heritage, promoting modern and emerging art. Lastly, Sustainable City Platform is a smart city infrastructure which enables a smooth integration between the physical and virtual space of city. Thanks to the opening of the virtual space of the city, it can facilitate a virtual residence experience for people abroad of the city geographical area. This opens an opportunities for creation of a better employment through virtual economy entrepreneurship, targeting the younger generation. Consequently, it improves the well-being of the citizens and virtual employment. More benefits of the platform. 80% more simple design leading to 80% cost reduction for implementation and maintenance. 80% reduction of data storage demand, leading to more efficiency on the long run and generating energy saving and positive environmental impact. 50 times more stakeholders engagement, leading to more economic opportunities. 12% higher user engagement, leading in higher economic benefits. Although ICT is called on to enable sustainability into smart cities, it is subject to high negative environmental impact related to the number of deployed sensors and the volume of generated data. One of the major costs in the big data industry is related to the data storage and data treatment. Smart cities are complex distributed systems which may involve multiple stakeholders, applications, sensors, and IoT devices. In order to be able to link and use such heterogeneous data, spatial data infrastructures for smart cities can play an important role in establishing interoperability between systems and platforms. Based on the open and international standards of the Open Geospatial Consortium, the Smart District Data Infrastructure concept integrates different sensors, IoT devices, simulation tools, and 3D city models with a common operational framework. We have shown about the huge environmental impact which can be achieved with the optimization of the data management when data storage is kept under control. Additional positive environmental impact is generated through a unified governance model, which integrated the technologies in the city through shared ownership, which minimizes the sensor multiplication and increases the reuse of the physical elements. This unified governance model is the key to create and provide an important social impact by empowering the users to exchange and build personal economic value of their data. Thank you for attention, and I wish everybody a good luck.
Thank you all for joining us today. I'm very proud to be with you. My name is Michael Lake. I am the President and CEO of Leading Cities, and today I want to talk to you about smart cities and sustainability. First, to give you a little background and context, Leading Cities is a global nonprofit organization. It is our mission to drive resilience and sustainability for all by unlocking the power and potential of our cities. You know, we've often heard of the fact that for the first time in human history, more than 50% of the world's population is now living in urban centers. And of course, that number continues to increase, with 70% of the world's population projected to live in our cities by 2050. The reality here is that we cannot achieve a sustainable planet without involving the world's cities. And our cities are not just incubators for innovation and populations and new technologies and businesses and opportunities. They're also incubations for the solutions of the future that we need. Now, when I first got involved in this smart city space, it was about 13 years ago. And the term smart cities had fairly recently been coined. What I've come to realize through the years is that smart cities, the term smart cities, is fairly new. But the concept underlying what is a smart city, or what we mean by smart cities, is as old as cities themselves. If you think back to Romans building aqueducts to bring water, fresh water, into their cities, or paving dirt roads with large stones. Of course, changing traffic cops with signals, traffic signals. Sewage systems, underground railroads or underground transportation. Or as you see here in the center, a kiosk in New York City providing citywide Wi-Fi. All of these are smart city solutions. So really, smart city solutions of their time. Really what we're talking about here is that smart cities equals the evolution of cities. And today, in the 21st century, during a period of greatest economic and technological advancements ever in human history, it is not surprising that so many of the new solutions available to cities today are involving technology. But it's not exclusive to new technology. We as a community, a global community, have serious challenges that we need to face. In fact, you may have heard of at least one of them. Yes, I'm talking about the effects of climate change. You know, 95% of the world's cities are coastal cities. So climate change, which of course is directly related to sea level rise, is a threat to 95% of the world's cities. That's a tremendous amount of humanity that we're talking about. Now, I realize that some want to debate the science of this, but the reality is we are facing existential threats that humanity has never faced before. And we have to act accordingly. We have to act collectively. So if we are going to achieve a sustainable planet, well, you can't do it without smart cities. If that's where our population is, if that's where our opportunity for impact is, then we need to start acting now, and we need to start in our urban centers. You know, our cities consume 80% of the world's resources and occupy only about 2, maybe 3% of the world's land. The United Nations had estimated that 1.3 million people move into a city somewhere in the world every single week. Now, this is increasing the pressure on cities, the demand of our city governments to do more with less. And those city budgets, as we all know, are already stretched thin. So city leaders have real challenges. They have to do more with less. They have to increase their efficiency. They have to increase the effectiveness of every solution they deploy. And we, of course, have to do this in the context of the impact that we are having in cities in terms of driving the effects of climate change. Our cities consume 66% of the world's energy, 70% of its CO2 emissions. And this is staggering amounts that our cities are doing. But when you actually look at the forms of emissions, it's not surprising. Coal, oil, gas are at the top of the list. But when you look at our nations, again, not surprising, but you see here the fact that China, the United States, of course, Europe, and the EU certainly have their fair share of not only impact, but also of the work that needs to be done. Now, I do want to talk just a moment about the impact of climate change. You know, we talk often about the 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius increase. I want to just put that into context. I know it doesn't sound like a tremendous change in temperature from the average person, but to highlight just a few of the impacts, the reality is our fresh water is affected. Either 9% less fresh water in the world with a 1.5 degree increase in Celsius each year, or 17% each year decrease in the amount of fresh water available for humans. Now, I will remind you that the world right now is surviving in this water-rich planet with only 1% of that water actually being drinkable. So every drop of water actually counts. Just another statistic to look at is our crop yields. Now, as our population continues to grow, we're going to have greater demands on our ability to produce and supply food. Again, looking at just some of the impacts that a 1.5 degree increase in temperature can result in is a 9% decrease in our production capacity. 16% if we increase to 2 degrees Celsius. So just the basic needs of humanity, food and water, are at risk. So the last one is, of course, sea level rise. If we increase 2 degrees Celsius, we're talking about a 50 centimeter increase in sea level rise. Again, as we talked about, with 95% of the world's cities as coastal cities, this is a direct impact. It's not just the land mass that we lose. It's not just the flooding of our homes or the loss of our homes. It's also the devastating impacts this has on infrastructure and how it can debilitate an entire city, its economy, overnight with flooding and these storm surges that we see over and over on a more intense, more frequent basis. The threats are real. So we have to take real action. We're relying on governments of all levels, national levels, state levels, regional levels, city levels, county levels. Every government entity has its role to play, whether it's developing policy, leading by example, creating regulations. We all have an opportunity to affect change. Now, the one thing that governments around the world have been facing right now is the effect of the pandemic. COVID-19 has wreaked havoc in our societies, in our families, in our economies, but it hasn't been all bad. Now, as a guy who likes to look at the glass as being half full, let's look at some of the positives that may have come from this pandemic. And there aren't many, but one that I can point to is pollution. The image you see here, the satellite image on the left, those red areas indicate pollution in Europe. You can see that moving from 2019 pre-pandemic to 2020 in the middle of the pandemic or after the beginning of the pandemic, a tremendous reduction in pollution. It's a reminder to all of us when cleaner air existed. This should help us to drive more environmental concerns, more action. Now, looking also at India, you see it even more dramatic impact in India. And to put this satellite image to a more direct context, imagine in October 2019, you would have seen that image on the left. You can barely even see. The air is so thick with pollution. By April 2020, blue skies once again. That's 6 months of change. So I said I was a man who looked at the glass as always being half full. So I really believe in this quote, that every threat to the status quo is an opportunity in disguise. Our opportunity is to transform our cities, not incrementally, but with dramatic changes, with the people at the core. A human-centric approach to change. Here in the United States, our native population had a philosophy that decisions made by the tribe's elders would be made with the impact 7 generations out in mind. Imagine today if our business leaders, our political leaders, all made decisions thinking about how it would affect 7 generations from now. How could we live with ourselves, knowing we're leaving a planet that is on the brink of inhabitability for humans? How could we live with ourselves knowing that the decisions we're making to continue to burn fossil fuels at the rate we've been burning since the Industrial Revolution, how could we continue to think that we would leave a planet that is essentially consuming itself with the sea level rise? We need to transition from that industrial revolution to a societal revolution, where the impacts of our decision are not only looking 7 generations out, but are human-centric. We can think about how to reimagine mass transit. This photo was taken during the pandemic. There was nobody riding mass transit in some cities. So can we think differently about microtransit to make up for reduced routes of on-demand service? When you think about the social distancing, a full bus has only a capacity for 8 people. That's not going to cut it. The economics of mass transit broke down in this pandemic. So we have to be more creative. We have to think about this. This is not the one and only pandemic we're going to face. So let's leave future generations with the capacity to deal with it better than we were able to. Our very roads. Cities around the world converted their roads during the pandemic into bike lanes. New York began trialing 7 miles of open streets to ease crowding in parks. In Oakland, California, almost 10% of roadways were closed to through traffic. In Milan, Italy, plans to build 22 miles of new cycle lanes and permanently widen sidewalks after its lockdown was lifted. In Bogota, Colombia, they opened 47 miles of temporary bike lanes during this pandemic. In Budapest, they've suggested that its new bike lanes may become permanent if the measures prove favorable, which in many places they have. And Paris' mayor, Anne Hidalgo, has called for returning to car-dominated status quo simply out of the question. But it's not just related to our cities and our roads in our cities. What about our public spaces? Having to social distance, as I said, in mass transit, having dividers in our benches, signaling out 6-foot diameters around benches and picnic tables and chairs outdoors. This is reducing our capacity in cities where its populations are increasing. So again, we need to be more effective. We need to think differently about how we're approaching the management and ongoing development and design of our cities. For green spaces, we've seen ideas like you see on the right. Walking parks with high hedges that would allow social distancing. In some places, these movable devices to show a six foot parameter to keep socially distanced. So back to government action. What role does the government have to play? First of all, we have to look at government investment. This is a real challenge. It does require, as I said earlier, all levels of government, because we're looking at a global investment in infrastructure between 2016 and 2040 to equal as much as $94 trillion. That's $3.7 trillion each year. At current spending levels, we're facing a $15 trillion gap. Now, that's just using today's projections, right? Every year we change in terms of our needs and in terms of solutions available, and that does have an impact on our investment. We've talked a lot and heard a lot about public-private partnerships. I believe in public-private personal partnerships are going to be our answer moving forward, because this is a shared challenge and it requires a shared approach from all sectors. You know, innovative solutions, they just have to be explored. We can't be afraid of doing things differently. Public procurement processes need to be adapted so that they welcome innovation. They work with startups. They're open for new opportunities. Private sector KPIs should include climate impact. We all know that industry is driving so much of the challenges we face in terms of climate change. But let's not forget about end users. People like you and I, we have our role to play as well. So we have to adopt behavioral changes. Yes, it's our consumption, but it's also the investments we make, the investments we make in our home, the types of vehicles we buy, how we decide to move from one place to another using mass transit or individual vehicles. These all have tremendous impacts, as we know. So let's look at spending on smart city projects worldwide. This is a projection from 2019 to 2025. I'm glad to say that even in 2019, that we were projecting an increase, a positive trend in our spending. What I have seen in cities around the world is that when COVID-19 first hit, there was almost a sudden and immediate drop-off in interest in investing in smart city projects and pilot projects. But now that we've emerged from that initial phase of COVID-19 and this global pandemic, cities around the world realized that what they thought were those nice to have, those gadgets and gizmos, the digitization of city government, were not so nice to have. They were now need to haves. You know, think about how many cities had tremendous impact, negative impact, on industries like the construction industry, when old, antiquated systems and methods of approving permits, paper and pencil, in-person interactions, shut down construction in cities. A digital system allows us to deal with social distancing and the ability to shut down a city hall without shutting down our construction industry, and that's just one example. So it has opened the eyes of city leaders, and we have seen an increase in interest, and hopefully that will be reflected in spending in the years to come. So what solutions exist? I couldn't possibly cover them all. You know, we run a global smart city accelerator program, and each year we get over 500 applications. After we did it the first year, I thought, 500 applications? We must have got every smart city startup in the world. And yet, next year was another 500 plus. So there are so many solutions out there. I couldn't possibly cover them all, but we'll just touch on a few to give you a sense of what's emerging. But what we have to start with is accepting the fact that if we continue to do the same old things with the same old thinking, we're going to get the same old results. Accelerating adoption of smart city technologies to combat COVID-19 is a must. You know, the status quo is truly a threat to cities. Accelerating that innovation is a must. So we, in this year's Acela City program, we saw the emergence of a new theme: plastic waste. We had a number of companies ranging from dealing with the collection of pollutant plastics to how it's processed to repurposing it and recycling it. Tremendous opportunities. The image you see at the top left is collecting plastic from rivers. Do you know that about 80% of the Earth's, the oceans, plastic comes from rivers? And most of that from just 10 rivers. On the right-hand side, under processing, that first image, those are racks of worms that are actually consuming plastic. Think about this. Every single plastic that humans have produced in this planet ever still exists. And it will exist for another 1,000 years. Using the natural process and ability of these worms to digest and break down plastics is a way for us to start ridding the planet of the plastic that's threatening us. Another way is breaking down plastics chemically into its basic compounds that can be repurposed for other uses. Or recycling that plastic into new materials used in construction, used in gardening and landscaping, or using completely new materials altogether. For instance, using food waste to produce the equivalent of plastic bags, plastic straws, plastic cups, and the like. Now, you can't have a conversation about climate without talking about carbon reduction. Do we ever think about the impact of city fleets of vehicles in terms of carbon dioxide emissions? Of course we do. But what are the alternatives? You electrify your fleet of vehicles, knowing full well that the electricity that you're using to charge it is just producing carbon emissions somewhere else. Do you use natural gas, another limited resource on this planet? Well, how about converting your fleet to biodiesel? Biodiesel, a renewable source that can power our fleets of vehicles and reduce that carbon emission. Now, street lighting. What I love about street lighting is the conversion of antiquated lights to LED lights is probably one of the best smart city use cases in the world. In large part because the payback period was so short. It was an easy win. But what we've seen is that converting our street lights and the poles that they're on into LED lights was just the tip of the iceberg. We have the opportunity to turn that asset, retrofit that asset with more modern technologies, turning them into smart poles, using air and solar power to generate electricity that not only powers the lights and the devices you can add to it, but can be an electric vehicle charging station as well, or a drone charging station if need be. Adding sensors, gunshot detection, air quality, pollution type detection sensors. Emergency calls can be made from these poles. The point here is that these technologies are growing. Some older than others, some at the cutting edge. But all of them have one thing in common, which is that they require our city leaders to think differently about the way we manage and maintain our cities, to feel comfortable to go outside the box, to think differently about how we do business within cities, and to be inspired by these solutions and the incredible entrepreneurs who are doing everything in their power to affect change. So I've covered a lot of ground. There's so much more I'd love to share. But in conclusion, I'd like to just say that, as Mark Twain best said, the secret to getting ahead is getting started. So to all of you, I say, are you ready to get started? Because a sustainable future requires smart cities, and smart cities begin with you. It's the partners you choose to engage, the strategies that you create, the investments that you make, both as cities, as businesses, and as individuals. And ultimately, it's the opportunities that you choose to seize. I wish you the very best of luck. This is a challenge that we all must face together. It's been an honor to be with you today. Thank you very much.
Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the most successful and promising smart city technologies, and really take a deep dive into a couple of technologies we think are playing a really big role, not just now in smart cities, but in the future as well. So getting started here, here's the agenda for today. Very quick intro to Guidehouse Insights to start off, just so that the audience knows what we do. Then we'll talk a little bit about the state of play in the smart cities market, looking at how many and the types of projects we're tracking here at Guidehouse Insights. After that, we'll do a deep dive on 2 smart city technologies that I think have been some of the most successful thus far. Then I'll talk about how some of the market drivers and barriers for the industry have really evolved, particularly in light of the impacts of COVID-19. And finally, we'll wrap up with some recommendations for cities and suppliers to help accelerate the deployment of smart city technologies. So at Guidehouse Insights, we're a market intelligence and advisory firm. We cover the global energy transformation with a lot of focus on the following 5 sectors. Of course, smart cities really cuts across all of these, since it just involves so many different sectors and subsectors. And you can see from the next slide here, this is shows the breadth of our research coverage, and I've highlighted where our smart cities research sits. So we have data insights through our smart cities tracker, as well as in our ecosystem insights team, we have our ongoing market analysis and reports on a variety of smart cities topics. All right, looking at the state of play. So we're currently tracking about 565 smart city projects across 325 cities, with the vast majority in North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. The government sector, which focuses on municipal services such as smart street lighting, air quality monitoring, and smart waste, as well as innovations around data analytics and data management. This is the most common project type we're finding, since a lot of smart city projects are led by government initiatives. The second most popular category is actually multi-sector programs, which is really interesting. I mean, that captures the evolution of the market towards these deployments that involve multiple industry sectors. And at the early stages of the market, we really saw a lot of siloed pilots and projects in one particular area. Now we're seeing projects really include a wide variety of smart city applications. And there's been a bit, as you can see in the chart, there's been a bit of a slowdown in 2019 in terms of annual projects deployed, and that's largely due to some declining national efforts in the US, with the Smart Cities Challenge program having finished a number of years ago, as well as some reduction of projects in India. The 100 Smart Cities program has hit some roadblocks along the way, and you're seeing fewer projects being announced compared to kind of that peak 2016 to 2018 period. Also seeing some pilot fatigue generally, where there's more large and commercial projects being deployed now, but it has led to a bit of a lower overall figure. Okay, now getting into what we think are some of the most successful smart city technologies and why. And I'll just preface that by saying these aren't the next two I'm going to talk about, smart street lighting and then one after. These aren't the only successful smart city technologies. Certainly there's been some success in other areas, such as building automation and smart metering and things like that. But these two are what we want to focus on. We think there's a lot of dynamic applications of these technologies happening in the market, and there's a lot of promise over the next 10 years for both of them. So starting with smart street lighting, I mean, this is one of the most rapidly expanding technologies in the market, and it's mainly due to the strong business case of installing controls alongside LEDs. There's just such an immediate and significant energy and maintenance savings associated with the technology. As you can see on the top right-hand corner of the slide, LEDs can reduce energy consumption for street lighting as much as 50%. I think smart controls can bring it as high as 80%. And it also reduces maintenance costs significantly, since lighting failures can be automatically detected, therefore reducing time, cost, and energy needed to locate and fix burnt-out lamps. The use of smart lighting as a platform for other smart city applications is also becoming more widespread in a number of cities globally, and I think the ability to have this platform capability is really a strong point for smart street lighting. We're seeing sensors and other tech being added to lighting networks to create new city services, such as EV charging, gunshot detection, air quality monitoring, traffic management, and smart parking. Also seeing suppliers such as Signify are beginning to offer more lighting products that are actually platform ready through the deployment or the development rather of smart poles. So poles that are just ready to add sensors to them and ready to go as soon as you deploy it to include many different applications. Last interesting trend to talk about here would be the emergence of utilities as a key driver of the technology. You see utilities like Oklahoma Gas and Electric, Georgia Power, Tampa Electric, Florida Power and Light. These organizations are leading many of the largest smart street lighting deployments globally, with each utility having deployed or in the process of deploying more than 200,000 connected streetlights in their service territories. And some of these utilities, such as Georgia Power, are actually installing far more than that. Within the next 4 years, the utility expects to operate around 1 million networked LEDs. And last point I'll say actually on this slide is that it's important to note the revenue figures here is just for connected lighting. This does not include LEDs. This is really the control nodes and the related software and services revenue associated. So we're looking at about $1 billion to over $8.3 billion by 2029, a very strong compound annual growth rate of about 27%. So lots of growth expected in this area, lots of opportunity. Next technology is advanced traffic management systems. So, as we all know, traffic congestion is a huge problem in most major cities. It has tremendous cost to society in terms of lost productivity, wasted fuel, negative impacts on human health. So, when you consider how limited cities are financially, especially recently from COVID, as well as physically from building more roads, technology is what's really going to move the needle here on traffic congestion. Adaptive traffic control, for example, and the represented the black bar chart. This solution can reduce traffic congestion by 15 to 40%, depending on the particular technology and the particular city. Cities are also using traffic analytics programs to filter just the enormous amount of data being collected into actionable insights. And overall, advanced traffic management systems are also enabling the development of smart intersections, which are really emerging as one of the most important data-driven backbones needed for solving core city challenges. And we see this as similar to the platform capabilities offered by smart street lighting, since traffic management systems and smart intersections, they can include layers of additional services as well. When you think about things like traffic lights prioritizing public transit vehicles, as well as traffic lights communicating with connected vehicles moving in the traffic flow. So that's another strong advantage for this technology. So something that's become very clear from both our conversations with suppliers as well as cities is that demand for advanced traffic management solutions from cities is very strong. and the resulting market opportunity for suppliers is pretty significant and growing. We're seeing a market of around 4.5 billion, or sorry, 1.3 billion in 2020 to grow to about 4.5 billion by 2029, with a pretty good growth rate of around 14%. In terms of breaking down our forecast, we looked at two technologies that are really key to this whole picture: adaptive traffic control and traffic analytics. If anyone's unfamiliar, adaptive traffic control basically includes systems that use vehicle detection technology like cameras or sensors and advanced software programs to enable traffic signal timing to adapt based on real-time traffic patterns, opposed to what's usually used is a predetermined time settings due to time of the day or day of the week. So some of these systems you may be familiar: Scoot, InSync, SCATS. These are some of the most common adaptive traffic control systems. Traffic analytics, that's going to include services like vehicle counting, route analysis, predictive analytics, a platform capability to manage different forms of transportation on your network, applications for monitoring and managing traffic conditions, things like that. So traffic analytics isn't really about changing red lights to green the way adaptive traffic control is. It's more about understanding the need to change traffic lights by area, or to show how safety can be improved, or construction can be rerouted, or just general analysis of traffic patterns. And much of it draws on mobile or other data from connected vehicles, and also using some vehicle detection hardware as well. So while these analytics services are in very high demand from cities and will be an increasingly important tool, especially as city budgets are slashed due to the impacts of COVID-19 and they're looking for solutions with lower upfront costs, the relative lack of required hardware investment compared to adaptive traffic control has resulted in just kind of a lower number for revenue. Adaptive traffic control systems can rise well above $50,000 per intersection. We average it around $30,000 for our model, but it can rise above if old technology needs to be upgraded as part of the implementation. So most adaptive traffic control projects involve some replacement or new deployments of vehicle detection, computer, traffic controller, processing, or communications hardware. Nevertheless, cities really need these analytics programs, and many cities are exploring higher uses of analytics and big data to replace some of the expensive hardware-driven projects. So when looking at key trends for the future for these two technologies, on the adaptive traffic control side, they're increasingly using artificial intelligence to make dynamic decisions around lighting, around traffic lighting, and how quickly lights are changing and where they're prioritizing different vehicles. Traffic control is also moving to edge and cloud computing to help provide new capabilities. In London, in the UK, for example, Siemens is developing a real-time optimizer solution to enable additional adaptive traffic control features, such as the intake of new data sources, connection to new types of sensors, and data sharing with connected vehicles. On the traffic analytics side, a big trend we're seeing here is companies like Verizon and mobility analytics companies like Streetlight Data. They're using anonymized mobile device location data to generate traffic analytics, which can also provide insights into traffic patterns and travel patterns for cities. And in the ride-sharing industry, Uber is partnering with cities such as Boston to analyze trip-level data, which helps inform a lot of decision-making around road improvements, parking, and other transportation planning. So, the potential of big data and interagency data sharing, these are key developments in the next wave of advanced traffic management. Now looking at some of the developing market drivers and barriers in the industry, starting with the drivers, as we see the costs reducing for sensors and communications equipment, we see that having a pretty strong impact on the adoption of smart city tech over the next 10 years. And you can kind of include the 5G and IoT networks in that, kind of growing particularly strong over the next 3 to 7 years as 5G gets more rapidly deployed. Sustainability targets is continuing to have a significant impact, particularly over the longer term as the targets get more stringent. And then urban resident expectations of increased livability is a bit lower on the pressure point for the market growth now, but we do see that growing over time. In terms of barriers, the coronavirus has certainly had a pretty massive impact. There's been some pretty strong economic repercussions on the short term, and we do see that lasting out to the next 3 or 4 years before it slows down. Concerns over privacy and data collection continues to be a significant barrier. We do see certain projects like in Toronto with Sidewalk Labs, a lot of issues around privacy and really being a big impediment to getting these projects rolling. And then lastly, in terms of ROI and economic resources, this is a big barrier for getting projects rolling, although we do see that reducing slightly over time. And lastly, looking at some recommendations for cities as well as suppliers. So on the city side, really look at these solutions that offer a strong business case or a platform potential. Obviously, we went over 2 today with smart street lighting and advanced traffic management, which, street lighting is a very strong business case. Traffic management is more about improved quality of life and health, but both offer that platform potential, which creates a lot of additional value through new services and potentially new revenue streams that can be created as well. As I just mentioned, cities really need to make sure that they're ensuring data privacy and transparency. We don't want to see projects get canceled because of this that we've already seen happening. Business models need to be simple and easy for cities. Energy savings performance contracts have worked very well for the smart street lighting industry. Also seeing as a service business models showing some promise. So cities pay monthly or annually, and they know exactly what the costs are going to be. These are some really great ways to get projects rolling. And then finally, vendors, really need to focus on those measurable improvements. And for solutions like traffic management, where there isn't as strong of a business case and it just needs to come from a Department of Transportation budget or a grant, it needs to be shown percentage improvements in traffic congestion, how much air quality potentially is being improved, all these different measurable outcomes and efficiency improvements that cities want to know about. That's what needs to be conveyed. Well, I hope that this presentation has been insightful and hopefully a little bit more about smart street lighting and advanced traffic management and the opportunities that these 2 technologies offer for the industry. And I look forward to answering any of your questions. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Somasundaram here. In short, you can call me as Soma. I am based out of Singapore. First of all, I wish to be thankful for providing me this wonderful opportunity to be part of this forum. Undoubtedly, I am very much privileged and honorable to talk among some of the brightest minds in this world. Thanks again for giving me this opportunity to talk about the smart cities of the future. Okay, now let's begin with my profile. Who is Soma? That's a weird question, right? Soma is a digital transformation architect and technology enthusiast who has passion on smart cities and Industry 4.0 areas. Perhaps I could represent myself as a smart city specialist who has worked on many large-scale projects across 3 global continents, namely Asia, Europe and Australia. I have 15 plus years of industry experience, worked for many global MNC companies. My specialization is on emerging digital technologies, and my passion is to solve real-world problems using digital technologies as well. So for this agenda, the structure of the agenda starts with the problem statement in the logistics and supply chain industry. What are the current challenges they are facing? And probably that could be in the level of business or in the operational level. Then what are the key project objectives to kick off this project in terms of key functional and technical requirements? Then deep dive into the solution that we come up with, which is a one-stop solution for the logistics and supply chain industry has been currently facing now. and then how we quantify this business benefits in terms of value proposition. Without any further ado, let's kick off and start with the project. So we start with the problem statement. So the problem statement of business challenges is nothing but the statistics says that there is a tremendous increase in delivery volume both at B2B and B2C. When I say B2B, the delivery of goods from warehouse to the shopping mall, or probably at the B2C, the delivery of the goods from the distribution center to the home. Especially during this COVID time, it's clearly evident that people from home used to buy products and goods via e-commerce platform. So the e-commerce platform like Amazon, eBay, AliExpress, Zappos, Rakuten. So there are so many. So and this has become a new business or new operational model, and it's during this recent years it's been projected to 2.8 times of increase in the delivery volume of the goods. This leads to a lot of delivery vehicles in the road, and this trend causes a lot of heavy traffic congestion and also huge carbon emission emitted by all these vehicles on the road. At the same time, there is a surging demand for the menial labor workforce where the people don't want to indulge themselves in this kind of a logistics work. So this become a real hectic that needs to be tackled by the city government to have a sustainable business and environmental friendly operations. So what is the solution? How to overcome this issue? The solution is smart urban logistics. The smart urban logistics is been modularized into 3 key segments based on its operational standard procedure. So the key operational segments are smart warehouse system, intelligent transportation system, and autonomous delivery system. This is fine to have this kind of solution to think about, but there is a lot of questions when we kickstart this project. So some of the questions are: who are the key stakeholders that we need to involve? What is the ASIS, which means the current process that has been followed by the traditional logistics and supply chain industry? What are the gaps and pain points in the current business operational landscape? How to fill the gaps? What are the technologies and technical elements that can be introduced to improve the process? And what is the key process, and nevertheless what is the budget they can spend across for this kind of a project to be in place? Then the answer is to have a detailed brainstorming workshop to get the different business and operational stakeholders to involve in this design thinking workshop. So during this workshop, the stakeholders debated about the process, outcome, value proposition, and the business benefits. Therefore, we effectively understood the ASIS process in detail and the gaps and pitfalls in the current process. Then we compile these pain points and frame the solution ecosystem to meet the business challenges, which is nothing but, if you see at the right hand side, starts with the design thinking workshop, identified what are the seamless operations that can just bring to have this seamless operational model and service centric approach. What are the infrastructure that needs to be integrated? The mobile on the go operations, security is key and major aspects that needs to be covered end to end, and enterprise mobility management from the operational unit to the standard operating procedure and workflow, it should be on the go, and using of emerging digital technologies like AMR, IoT, drones, and even RFID, all this stuff, big data, artificial intelligence again, and how we can strategize to a business benefit, and what is the proper governance body to just handle this kind of a project. Yeah, so you see here the digital, we we call this as a digital logistics and supply chain of the future, and this is going to be a future, of course. Yes. From the technical standpoint of view, we have had to think about the technology and key technical elements which can be a part of this smart urban logistics ecosystem. What you see here starts with RFID. RFID is in an example I could say in warehouse we use this RFID to just know the location of this the particular inventories, either the tote box or cotton boxes, and this RFID transponder just transfer the data to this RFID receivers so that we know by the location tracking and Internet of Things, definitely whatever the things that we wanted to connect, either it could be OBD unit in the vehicles or probably the sensors attached to the vehicles or maybe the drones, all will be like part of Internet of Things using this some sort of communication technologies to transfer the data. And autonomous mobile robots, which is the key aspect for the delivery management in both at warehouse level and also at the shopping mall level, which can be augmented with to have this human AMR teaming collaboration to just have the operational efficiency both at warehouse and the shopping mall. And the drones are to just monitor where exactly the ordering goods or maybe the goods needs to be shipped and distributed. So this can be monitored real time by the drones. And smart wearables is nothing but actually the workers at the warehouse actually wear the smart wearables so that they can be tagged with what are the goods they just been transferring from point A to point B using a forklift or trolley or maybe using their bare hands. And smart mobile is for digital proof of delivery. AI is for smart operations and predictive maintenance, and big data analytics to know the inventory level, stocking up, the goods movement and everything. And cybersecurity is again this comes under the umbrella of security. We just wanted to have this security at the infra level, app level, database level, and also at the whole application visualization level. So with this different sort of stacks, we wanted to enhance with the security standards, and that is where the cybersecurity comes into picture. Okay, this is all good to have. So, but what's the value proposition that can be bring by this technology? That is the key question. So, these are all the operational or probably the business value proposition that we identified, and I'm happy to share with you here. We wanted to have this, the business stakeholders wanted to have the operational efficiency achievement, which is nothing but boosting the productivity by reducing the downtime, improving the overall delivery performance from point A to point B to point C, and smart operations. So try to have more seamless operations by having automation techniques, and also by using the big data and AI, the predictive maintenance to know the level stocking up, when the goods has to be replenished, what's the popular goods in demand. So all this can be captured under the predictive maintenance, which is by the machine learning models. And last but not least, consistency and predictability in the delivery service quality to the shopping mall, to satisfy the retailers and also to satisfy the consumers who are consuming the goods. Yeah. Then the second important value proposition is nothing but shifting the mind from product focus to service focus, which is nothing but adaptive and improved customer experiences. What is this adaptive and improved customer experiences? So in this business landscape, there is probably a surge in demand where there is an increase in volume of goods that needs to be delivered. At some time, there is very less in terms of very sparse in amount of delivering of goods. So this kind of increase and decrease. So this needs to be, the system must be adaptable to this kind of fluctuation. And again, augmented workforce too is the delivery. There is nothing but the teaming between the human and AMR, which is the autonomous mobile robots, is the delivery process, and also with the proof of delivery and new products and services. So this means this will be opening a new gateway to just having a new products can be introduced and new services can be introduced. And last but not least, product as a platform. This platform, the whole platform is being powered by cloud technologies, cloud and smart technologies, where this all is being just developed and designed using microservices. So this microservices, the benefit of having the microservices is something like it can be replaced by any technology elements based on the technology maturity in the market, and also it can be even one of these services is being just down, still the other services has been keep on running. So that is where actually this is one of the key technical prospects that we want to have, which is as product as a platform. And from the business perspective, we wanted to the business the business folks or the stakeholders, they wanted to have shifting the business from the capex model to the opex model, which is nothing but actually they investing upfront investment which they wanted to reduce, and they wanted to go for an operational model. And again, they want to optimize the cost of the spending, whatever they are spending for this LSPs, warehouse operations at the retailer level. So they wanted to optimize the cost, and most importantly, how it could be the value information provider for them in terms of movement of goods, stockpiling, and also the replenishment of goods, and how to order the goods by using this ERP system integration, synchronization, all this part of this value information provider. Okay, now comes to the project objective. So the project objective is nothing but it's categorized into three different levels. One is the business level, the second one is the technical level, and third one is the operational level. So start with the business. Obviously, the productivity must be improved by reducing the downtime with all this technology that in place. Secondly, the interesting point is to have a common technical specifications, because this is quite new in the market and this involves a lot of moving parts and technical elements. Say for example, it could be the vehicle needs to be integrated with the communication layer, with some sort of sensors, and lift at the lift level in the shopping mall, at the warehouse, the AMR needs to autonomously talk to the lift, so that this needs to be automated. And again, the forklift, what sort of communication can be used to carry the goods when there is the goods are in the forklifts, or probably in the trolleys and smart wearables. So there are so many moving parts and floating elements for this to be considerate. So for that, we need to have a sort of robust technical specification in terms of like adapting to the best technical practice and standards. And lastly, the operational standards. So this operational unit, if you look at this, there will be at the warehouse level, the logistics service provider level, and the mall at the retailer level. So there are three different operational units. So this needs to be have a proper hands-on and handshake between all these three parties. And at the same time, there should be a proof of delivery has to be prominently delivered to the end customer. So these are all the key project objectives that we think about when we develop this project. And so once after this identified all this gist of the project objectives, then we started to form a technology partners and ecosystem and identify who are the key players to be there in the market, like robotic solution vendors, lift OEM vendors, or probably the suppliers of RFID or the Bluetooth, or maybe the onboard unit which is fitted in these vehicles, and smart wearables. So there will be so many players. So we just bring them in under one umbrella to just form an ecosystem. Once the pilot project has been developed, we wanted to first started with the pilot project, which is around for we planned for 6 months initially, but this is being just elongated to 1 year. So this pilot project, we did the thorough testing of this pilot using a technical field test by just having some sort of like environment at the mall and warehouse and at the roads. Then once the pilot has been just evaluated successfully and positively, then we form a technical reference. So from this technical reference, we try to adopt to a national technology framework. So this could be a blueprint and for solid foundational architecture or framework to be get adopted to when there is a propagation, or we want to scale this project to a more more shopping malls and more retail outlets. Yeah, so that is where the industry adoption comes into picture. Yeah. So these are the key business requirements. I could say, yeah. So from the business stakeholders perspective, definitely when they want to invest money, so they wanted to have some sort of cost optimization. So when they invest the money, so they wanted to see the total cost of ownership needs to be equal or less to the equivalent manpower they just put forth in as part of the investment. So but definitely this is a challenging part, but this cannot be optimized at the initial level where there is some sort of like heavy investments required at the time of buying and are probably leasing an autonomous mobile robots, which where the robots market is not so mature. So but again, we try to thrive to overcome this challenge to have this TCO to be very optimized way. And again, robot as a service model, so which is like we wanted to have this robotic solution partner to just provide this robot as a service, which is something like a pay per use, and that needs to be a ability to scale up and down when there is a need, there is the spike in need, and also there is a lower need. And the AMR should take this labor intensive tasks while the workers can focus on higher value roles. So this form of human machine teaming will improve the workforce model and enhance productivity. Yeah. So ultimately wanted to improve the productivity, improve operational efficiency, maximize the asset utilization, reduce downtime, and finally enhance business model. Okay, so these are all from the business and operational perspective. It's good to have, to know very well. But what's the solution that we bring onto the table? So without any further ado, let's jump into the solution. So what you see here is basically, I just put my logo over here, maybe somewhere around here, so that will be easy. So what you see here, the smart warehouse system architecture. So this warehouse system architecture comprises of 4 different pillars. Starts with edge devices, connectivity layer, digital platform layer, and system integration. So edge devices is nothing but all the vehicles, the inbound and outbound vehicles to the warehouse will be connected via this onboard unit, which is like having the GPS dongle and onboard unit. So this onboard unit to just track the vehicles and also the status of the inventory and everything can be communicated via the 4G LTE wireless to the nearby cellular base stations. These cellular base stations pushing the data to this cloud gateway, and the cloud gateway just ingests the data to the IoT platform, which is hosted in the cloud. This can be hosted on-premise as well. Yeah. This at the warehouse level, the warehouse workers using these forklifts and using this AMR itself, carrying some of the goods, and also the drones to inspect and monitor the stockpiling and also the location of the goods and condition of the goods. All this has been connected via Wi-Fi modules. So this Wi-Fi module is just talk to the Wi-Fi router in turn as a backend communication. So this backbone communication in turns pass the data and communicate effectively to this cloud gateway, which is like having the router. It's been having the IP address configured over here. So this IP address, just using this TCP IP protocol, just sends the data to this cloud gateway. And are these so people who are using the handheld scanner or barcode scanner or QR code scanner, so all this data is communicating via the Ethernet or 4G LTE if they're using the mobile to scan the QR code of this inventory boxes. All this data using this private network to push the data to the cloud gateway. So once the data has been just collected at the cloud gateway, this is something like a central IoT hub. This IoT hub is nothing but actually just collecting the data, aggregate and normalize the data, and stream the data to this layer, which is nothing but actually transactional data, all the transactional data, which we call it as a warm path. And the cold path is nothing but the batch data. It could be scheduled data, it could be fortnightly, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, from the ERP systems and third-party integration, are probably the data from these different layers will be just ingested as in a batch mode to send it to and stored at the data warehouse level. So first we see this event processing. Once the data has been just collected, we transform the data to a common format, because this data could be either JSON, XML, CSV, could be in any format. So, or maybe a flat file. So this data has to be transformed or normalized to a common data format, and from there this data will be streamed to stored in a transactional database, which is nothing but an RDBMS. Either we use the MySQL, Postgres, or Oracle database. From there, actually, the smart reporting will be the one used by the user manager, where there is something like the self-service BI, or probably they wanted to use some sort of like basic SQL queries to just query and pull out the data to see this inventory levels, the stock piling, and also the status of the goods at the distribution center level, or probably the mall level, or probably at the warehouse level. So this is where the user manager pulls out the data and see. And here, if you see here, the batch processing, which just ingests the data via the batch schedulers. So then all the data will be stored in a data warehouse, or called as a data lake. From there, actually, all the ETL, the extraction, transformation, and loading, which club the data from the ERP systems and also the transactional data, form a data model, and then they're using this machine learning data model, something like supervised learning or unsupervised learning, or probably the reinforcement learning, to know the predictive maintenance part and also know the better insights of where the goods, not only the tracking of goods, and also the popularity and demand of the goods. All this can be monitored, and also to know the deep insights, we use this ML data model. At the security level, if you the southbound, you can see the security. So this has to be properly SSL and VPN with firewall, which means like, so the data needs to be encrypted properly with proper certifications. Whenever there is a data handshake, or maybe a handshake between the different retailer operational units. So that is why we're using this proper virtualization techniques, and the SSL needs to be there in place. And again, two-factor authentication is to just having this one-time password to be sent to their mobile or either email as a notification to just get authorized. This is the right owner can be logged into the system. And again, identity access management to know the group users and profiles and all these different roles functions. Again, here it is connected via API manager or API gateway to know this where this can be visualized. It could be at the dashboard level, mobile level, or contact center level. So the different form of visualization will be provided to the end customers to see and access the system. So this is the solution overview. So the solution has been, the smart warehouse system has been categorized into inventory management, operations management, and workers management. If you see at the inventory management level, again, they wanted to know the tracking the inventory goods at exactly where it is and location of the goods, because the warehouse is kind of a few football field size, so they need to know where exactly the goods, the movement of the goods, and where it's been carried out. And again, the integration to ERP system to just push the data, ingest the data to the sales and CRM and ERP systems, and predictive maintenance using this data lake to just identify the movement of goods and the goods on demand. Yeah, and again the load utilization of the inventory. So again, so at the operations management level, so all this digital proof of delivery at different handshake, different level of handshakes between the parties, the operational parties, and automated workflow notifications, real-time visibility of goods location again, augmented workforce, all this part of this operations management. And comes to workers management, so they wear the smart wearables, so they can be tagged to know who is handling the goods and who is the proper owner to be access the forklift or trolleys or probably operating the drones. So this is part of the operations management, and skill set matching, monitoring of work shift and productivity, all this part of this workers management. So the key enablers to have this smart warehouse system is AMR, drones, cloud, IoT, and AI. And outcome for this smart warehouse system is improved warehouse operations. Again, of course, needs to be the warehouse process has to be improved very well, reduce operational downtime, and optimize labor workforce. Then comes to intelligent transportation system. So the intelligent transportation system, you see the architecture here. So again, the same, the data source, which is nothing but the vehicles, the OBD units, and the vehicle, the GPS data, and also the contact center. So just controlling this, the whole enterprise system of operations management, driver management, and vehicle management. So what you see here is, so this is again the data source and connectivity, right? Again, the data will be pushed to the cloud platform every near real time, which is every 1 minute, and then the operational data, where all this is pre-configured systems at the enterprise level will be just monitored and controlled by this contact center in terms of driver management, vehicle management, and operations management. So this in turn will just push the data. So who is the specific driver just handling this vehicle, and where is the location that they're going to carry this goods to, which destination, and also what is the better optimization of routes they taken. So everything will be just part of this enterprise system. So this will just push the data to this IoT platform. So IoT platform is having sort of key modules like analytics and business rules, which is all the CEP, the complex event processing, the data lake to store the data from different data sources, and machine learning for doing all this machine learning data models. Again, smart reporting for the users to know the inventory, KPIs, measures, and everything. Business integration to know the notifications, and also the workflow to have the standard operating procedures with the different approval process and different escalation process and everything. Again, the GSS mapping is you see here, the map with the geo information system. Know the active tracking of the vehicles from point A to point B, or everything will be monitored with the status of the goods and the number of fleets in the map, and everything will be monitored by the GIS mapping. And also we just integrated with the weather forecasting system to know whether it's going to be rain or it's going to be storm, how to just avoid this kind of weather climate, to have the fleet can be traveled across. So all this part of this IoT platform. Yeah. And last but not least, you can see the map and also the details of the fleet, drivers, geofencing, route planning, inventory details, and everything can be visualized in this dashboard. So the intelligent transportation system, this is the key solution overview. So what you see here is, just move my logo here, the driver management, vehicle management, and operations management these are the key modules of intelligent transportation system. And this is again knowing about the driver status, vehicle status, operation monitoring, geo optimization, the route optimization, geo information system, all this part of this intelligent transportation system. And key enablers are OBD unit, onboard unit fitted into this vehicle, GPS devices, cloud, which is a central piece of software to just pull all the data, IoT again, and AI. So the outcome is again minimize traffic congestion and air pollution, definitely to have the optimized route and try to reduce the number of trips and everything, reduce number of accidents. When there is a less number of vehicles on the road, definitely there is less number of accidents as well. Avoid waiting time for unloading bay and loading bay at both warehouse level and shopping mall level. Optimize truck utilization and fuel savings. Again, when you optimize the productivity and optimize the trips, then the fuel can be decreased. And cut idling time or last mile deliveries. Yes, this is where the autonomous delivery system, which is quite interesting to know. So once the LSP just arrived to the shopping mall or distribution center, so he just park his vehicle at the unloading bay and offload all the goods. Once he offload all the goods, the AMR, the autonomous mobile robots, know, and preemptively they know when the goods going to be arrived and where it needs to be delivered to which storefront needs to be delivered. So these are all pre-configured and with the dynamic planning. So this, once the LSP comes here at the unloading bay, he drop off the goods and simply he walk away from the unloading bay, so that he don't occupy the unloading bay for a longer time. So once after he unloading the unloading bay, offload all the goods, the AMR just navigate to the unloading bay to just pick up the goods. With this get a sort of like the fabricated it goes underneath the trolley, and just using this fabricated plate, just pick up the trolley, the shopping cart kind of a trolley. If you see here, the shopping kind of cart or trolley, this robot go underneath this and pick up this trolley and try to move this trolley by carrying this trolley. This AMR will just move away like this and move to this point A to point B to point C. Okay, so this is the challenging part, where this AMR has to be shared this pathway along with the pedestrians and also the shopping mall, the shoppers inside. Okay, so this is where the challenging part. So that's why this is an autonomous mobile robot, so not automated guided vehicles where it can go on a fixed path lane, but this one can just dynamically change the path based on the traffic, based on the obstacles, or based on some sort of hindrances, and even it cognitively it identify and understand. So where is exactly the lift has been broken down, or probably an automated door is broken down, so try to avoid that path. All is being knowing by this intelligent robots. That's why it's called an autonomous mobile robots. And this is a huge topic that we need to dwell to know and discuss about this topic. Probably if I have more time, maybe that's in another chapter, I can discuss about the autonomous mobile robots part and the key technical features and the capabilities that can bring as part of the value add on. So again, so this trolley has to be secured, because this autonomous AMR robots, right, the autonomous mobile robots has to be properly secured. Anyway, this is properly secured, but this one, how to secure this, the shopping cart? So that's where actually a beacon transponder has been fitted with this trolleys. So whenever the trolleys has been just move away from this proximity, so then there will be an alert has been just triggered to the retailers to let them notify about this anomaly or abnormal situations. So that's why we can prevent the mishandling of these goods, and also this AMR can be deviated to another location. So if somebody trying to push the AMR to another location, it start beeping the alarm, so that it will be notified to the fleet manager operator at the shopping mall and also the retailers. So that is where the good part of the security for these AMRs and the trolleys. So again, so there is a proof of delivery and handshake happens at the unloading bay. So once this the logistics service provider comes to this unloading bay, they just simply transfer the goods by just scanning the QR code and pass it to the AMR to pick it up, and just the AMR show to like go and navigate to this pathway and take the lift autonomously without any manual intervention, and then deliver the goods to the retail storefront. And where the retail store crews, they just go and simply scan the QR code and offload the goods, and that's become another proof of delivery. So this is where the whole ecosystem of the autonomous delivery system. Yeah, and you can see here this cloud platform, which is a central managed platform with the 3 key different modules, which I try to describe in my next slide. And these are all the different modules that we plan to have for this ADS system. Yeah, so these are the key modules: human and AMR interactions. So the AMRs needs to be controlled and also monitored and actively with active tracing by human at the fleet management level. So the mall, the operational unit keep on monitoring this AMR where there is a breakdown happens, or probably try to increase their speed or something. So this can be controlled by the backend operator who sits in the mall. So that is where the human and AMR interaction. And AMR sensing and navigation, when I just mentioned the navigation capabilities, there are some of the navigation capabilities, something like dynamic path planning, precision localization, or SLAM, simultaneous localization mapping. So these are all part of this AMR's capability, sensing and navigation capabilities. So the AMR has to travel without any hindrances, or try to avoid the obstacles, try to avoid the traffic, seamlessly needs to communicate with the lifts and automated doors. That is where the digital communication with the infrastructure, and also has to like offload and onload the goods. So these are all sort of like intelligence behavior that needs to be embedded into this AMR. And goods carriage and security, which I explained earlier. So the goods has to be properly secured when during this travel from point A to point B, and properly needs to be delivered with the proof of delivery. And intelligent delivery management is nothing but actually So this TUs has to be this there will be few robots running around all the places. So this has to be optimized. So say for example, the robot A just go and pick the goods A. The robot B should not go and fight with the robot A to just pick the goods. So it has to be optimized properly to go and pick the goods B. So this is how the intelligent delivery management has been just framed upon. Yeah. So these are the key modules, and now comes to the master architecture. So the master architecture is, you can see here. Yeah. So this is the smart cities platform architecture. What you see here at the eastbound is the security layer, and westbound is the security layer, and eastbound is the operations layer. When you talk about security, infra security, data security, app and web security, identity access and management. So all is part of this security operations. And again, when it comes to the operations, the user management, IT operations management, DevOps is the one actually we want to like have this automation needs to be there in place, the continuous integration and continuous automation and deployment. Service commission, so whenever there is a new service has to be commissioned, it has to be seamlessly using these microservices can be just plugged in. And also the infrastructure management in terms of like network monitoring management, all this server management will be part of the infra management. So what you see here is the edge layer, all these different devices, all has been connected, some sort of communication technologies, either Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, RFID, or maybe GPS, 4G, LTE. So all this will be communicated via some communication layer, and it's been properly communicated. And the infrastructure layer is having this flexibility to either hosted in the cloud or in the on-premise infrastructure. And data layer is where actually all this batch processing, data ingestion happens, transactional database, historical database, and warehouse, and the complex event processing to correlate the data from different sensors. All will be part of the CEP processing, and the historical data is with the different ML data models like supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Depends on where the algorithm needs to switch over and to do this machine learning data model and store all the data in data lake for further data analysis. And again, integration is something like interface, whether the API gateway or webhooks or interoperability between different data source systems. And again, the application layer is nothing but all this different business logic, workflow, SOPs, standard operating procedures, self-service, BI, orchestration of all these business services, all part of this. And this is all the industry layers. Either it could be spawned to smart cities, smart healthcare, smart energy, and smart industry. Yeah, and ours is smart logistics, right? Yeah. And this can be visualized in few forms. Either it could be a command center, in a digital wall, or it could be a desktop app or mobile or tablet devices. So this is about the platform architecture, and this is the data flow architecture. Starts with the edge layer and sensors. How either it could be analog devices or physical entity connected with the sensors. How you ingest the data. And again, this device agent can just bidirectionally communicate and try to like have the firmware updates or mesh network or device orchestration. All this part of this controlling is happen at the device agent level. And IoT gateway is connected with both the device agent and also the sensor gateway. So the sensor gateway is where the device user interface has been connected for this to push the updates in terms of firmware updates, or probably any topology changes, or maybe some sort of like location changes. All will be like push as in part of this via UI to the sensor gateway to the device agent. This in turn control the sensors at the edge level. And IoT gateway is the one which makes very valuable value add-on in terms of like device data collection, data aggregation, normalization, edge computing analytics. So filter the data, which is the raw data, which is like every single minute or so they will just push up the data, so you cannot like all push to this cloud. So the IoT gateway just filter the data and send the data whichever is more valued on. Okay. And again, device configuration and bidirectional communication, all is part of this IoT gateway. And cloud gateway is something like IoT hub. Again, do some sort of like filtering and data normalization and data cloud ingestion to the cloud platform. And message queue is the one actually temporarily store the data and publish the data to different layers. Either it could be data management services or topology data, digital topology, digital tin and topology, and which is the transactional database, which is using the complex event processing. So these are the three different subscribers for this publisher. So if you look at his, so this one will be categorized into warm path, hot path, and cold path. This is where the transactional data, which is to know the real-time notification to address whatever there is an abnormal or anomaly situations. So to let the know user applications, and this is a topology and digital twin to know the different level of sensors, locations, physical entity can be mapped to a digital, which is like a cyber-physical system, and also the modeling of the data, modeling of this physical premise location and operational units can be modeled here and can be visualized as in a digital way. All this physical can be just converted to a digital way and can be monitored and visualized. And this use the GraphDB like Neo4j or probably Neo4j is the popular database that we used, and we're using the REST API connects to the REST API gateway here. So this is where the complex event processing I just explained, and this is where the data lake process, where all the data sets will be just stored across using the Hadoop ecosystem and the big data services. This will be like in turn for using for the AI analytics, using the different data models and different machine learning data models. This can bring the value around and store it to be data lake for historical analysis. So again, so this is all connected to the API gateway. The API gateway where the user application, these are the clients and this is the backend application. So to know where exactly the status of the different sensors are probably the operational units, and again this will be connected to the enterprise systems like ERP, CRM, or any third-party apps via this enterprise apps. So this is where the end-to-end data flow architecture. Yes. And now again comes to the business case. I'll quickly go to the business case. So this is where you see here the access process and to be state and time saving and what is the productivity savings. So in a last mile delivery activities start from the warehouse level and deliver to the store. So this is where the access state for this, it takes around 115 minutes per trip to deliver the goods to a shopping mall. In a to be state with the automation process, IoT, all the digital transformation technologies has been reduced drastically, and now it's been turned to 65 minutes. This is so 55 minutes has been just a potential time savings. 65 minutes is potential time savings. Okay, so this one is a time saving, but how this time saving can be converted to a productivity savings and money savings. This is where we take this case study of shopping mall A and shopping mall B. So where some of the retailers wants to deliver the goods every day. So say for example, this shopping mall A has 23 retailers and shopping mall B has 23 retailers. We just do an average and try to multiply with 18 shopping malls across Singapore. So in total it comes to around 477 retailers. So 18 mall contain 477 retailers, which is nothing but the shopping retail shops. So the time taken for the manual last mile delivery, which is 115 minutes per trip. Okay, so with this 1 hour 15 minutes, so that number of truck trips per set of drivers, they can deliver only 4 trips per day because they consume more time, so only they can deliver 4 trips per day. So number of truck trips which is can be calculated, which is 477 retailers for 4 trips, which is around 120 truck trips is required to deliver for this 18 malls and 477 retailers. Whereas in the robot last mile delivery, when the technology that in place with all this automation technologies, optimization of this transportation and at the warehouse level and shopping mall, they can cut down the time by 15 minutes, which is less than 1 hour. So with this time saving, they can just do extra number of deliveries, which is they can increase to 6 trips per day. So with this 6 trips per day, they can save number of truck trips, which is 80. So the delta, the difference between these two truck trips is 40 number of truck trips that can be saved, and the productive improvement is 30%. Okay, so basically they can just deliver to more shops with the same trucks and try to reduce the number of trucks that needs to be transported from warehouse to the different shopping malls. So this is how the truck trips can be saved and number of trucks can be saved. So totally 40 trucks every day can be saved. So think about how much fuel savings, how much man hour savings, and also the productivity savings. This is humongous when extrapolated to many number of malls across different regions and zones. Okay, so with this, actually, I come to a conclusion and show this case study as a business case quantification. And this is a real world project. Actually, we did it and successfully deployed. And this becomes logistics and supply chain of the future. And so no wonder this is not a magic, and this has happened in the real world, and we can see this productivity savings. So with this, I come to a conclusion, and I'm happy to say thank you for giving me this kind of splendid opportunity, and I'll welcome for any question and answers. Thank you so much. Goodbye.